Abs. Abs. When drawing the ab area, I simplify it down to 4 important parts: the rib cage, the main abs, the obliques, and these thirst straps right here. I couldn't really find the official name for them, but I've always known them as V-line muscles, so I'm calling them that. Before we get into the ab area, understanding the rib cage is crucial to really start to understand the forms of the torso region. This is because it heavily dictates the form and the shape of the abs, and the rib cage can expand and contract more than you'd think. So for the rib cage, it's kind of like a cylindrical shape that's somewhat wider than the main ab region. The ab's main job is to contract the spine, so what this means is pulling the rib cage closer down to the pelvis. If you understand this, it kind of gives you a better understanding of what the muscles look like in different positions. Moving on to the main ab area, they're of course sitting in like kind of the stomach region, but they attach to the front of the rib cage pretty much right underneath the chest, and then they go all the way down to the groin. Then there's the obliques, and these really still confuse the fuck out of me, but in this simplified version, you can see them kind of just as bands of muscle that run from the side of the main abs to underneath the armpit. Lastly, there's the infamous V-lines. These muscles are actually kind of connected to the obliques, so they run kind of from the obliques diagonally down towards the crotch as well. Now that I've gone through my simplified way of looking at abs, let's get into the next chapter. Please, YouTube, don't demonetize me, bro. Looking at these studies, you can see that the rib cage can actually twist a bit, and this will change the way the abs are positioned, as well as the curvature of the muscles, because they are the main contributors to this movement. Something to note is how the main abs can actually bend and twist a lot. Although they're not really being shown to the extremes right now, I'll definitely include it in the drawing portion later. So while I'm drawing the position of all these muscles, they actually aren't very visible on some of them, especially the obliques and the V-line muscles don't really show that much unless the muscle's really well developed or the person is actually really lean. Knowing where those muscles go is definitely step 1 in terms of learning how to actually draw them and make them look the way you want to. It's like trying to draw a face, but you don't know where the eyes, nose, or lips go, but you're too focused on making them look appealing that you forget the whole step of figuring out where to even put them. Taking a closer look at this demon, I'll actually do a quick study of how I would draw his body, just to quickly show how I would formulate actually doing an actual drawing of his abs. So as you can see, I start with the rib cage to kind of get a feel for the gesture and position of the torso, and then I move on to the hips and position of the overall abdomen. In this one, the guy has his hip popped kind of on one side, so that side will be a little bit more flexed and the muscles there will be bigger and more bundled up. Doing a draw over using the same color code from before, you can still see that I'm fundamentally using the same simplification, but I'm just drawing the forms in a more realistic way. For example, instead of using just a rectangle for the abs, I'm actually adding a bit of curvature for each ab muscle, and the same treatment goes to the obliques and the V-lines. I'll do more drawings like this later to show even more variation in the ways you can actually draw abs. And so, while understanding the position of all the muscles is really important, it's only step 1. Let's get into how other master artists use this understanding to display abs on their characters. So getting right into it, you can quickly see how the rib cage is actually very apparent in people's drawings once you've actually kind of developed an eye for it. This is especially noticeable on the drawing in the middle. Reviewing multiple different artists for these breakdowns, you can quickly see that there's much variation in the way that you can display abs, whether it be a more simplified and subtle way, like the drawings on the left or right, or in a really big and chunky way like the middle one. Something to take note of is how the middle drawing is of a guy with very big, voluminous muscles, so there's a lot of separation between the muscles, and each of them have distinct curvature, like each muscle is a little ball of muscle. The other 2 drawings, on the other hand, feature characters with subtle muscle separation. This is because for both characters, they're kind of on the leaner end, so their muscles still show, but they don't have much muscle mass, so there isn't that much curvature. So with this first drawing, the person has a decent amount of muscle mass and is somewhat lean. I drew him with his torso bent a lot to show you how it would look in the extreme case. This pose is pretty important because a lot of posing with attitude and personality actually includes some level of hip bend. Moving on to the next one, we're viewing her from below, and we are going to see some lines indicating where the rib cage protrudes out in front of the abdomen. For her body type, she's pretty lean, but she doesn't have much muscle mass, so there isn't muscle distinction on the individual main ab muscles. For this third guy, he's a bit higher in body fat, but he's still got a decent amount of muscle, so his ab muscles still show a bit. He's also bent sideways like the first drawing, and also leaning forward a bit, so the main ab muscles are being compressed too. Moving on, we got this girl who's super low in body fat and not much muscle mass. This means her muscles show clearly, but there isn't much curvature. Also, because she has low body fat and low muscle mass, her bone structure shows through a bit more, so we can see her ribcage structure much easier. For this last dude, he's got a good amount of muscle mass and not much body fat. He's naturally bending forward because he's slouched on the couch, so his main ab muscles are being compressed. He also has his arms extended out onto the couch, so his obliques are being extended, which makes them more clearly visible. Lastly, he also has very well developed V-line muscles. And here's a final look at the drawings. If we apply my simplifications to them, you can see a bit easier as to how I structured my drawings. Ideally, you should have some version of simplification like this in your own brain, and hopefully I helped you with that if you didn't. If you have any questions, feel free to put a comment down below. I make sure to answer everyone. If you found the video interesting, maybe check this one out on how I like to simplify the eyes, and how you can use that to develop your own style for drawing eyes. Also, any likes and subs are appreciated. Thanks for watching. Peace!